It's one of those moments where you kind of just like accept what's going to happen next.
Welcome to Journeys in Focus, where every path tells a story. I'm Brenden, your host, and together we'll explore the journeys that shape our lives and bring our world into focus. Adjust that focus, come along on the journey. Welcome back to another episode of Journeys in Focus. Today we're here with Matt. It's a pleasure having you on. Can't wait to talk more about choreography and everything you've been doing since you're a few years out of college. And it seems like dance has really been taking over, even though I feel like it's always been there in your life. So welcome. Excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So really, you've been dancing. I've known you in college. And what really was that starting point as to why you pursued dance?
It's a great question. So I started when I was 4, which actually is like late for people to start, usually start at 2 or 3. So I started at 4, and it was actually because I was constantly going to the dance studio with my sister, and I was a soccer player, quotation mark soccer player. I was literally standing on the field picking up flowers, like literally it was like embarrassing. And I kept seeing my sister at dance, and I kept saying to my parents, I really want to do this. Like, I really want to do this. And my mom was like, fine, put you in dance. Started when I was 4. I started very slow. So I only did like 1 class a week. And then I was like, I want to do more. I want to do more. And my parents kept adding me in. And then I was in competition. They asked me when I was 7. And ever since then, I dropped everything else. And dance was the only thing I ever did after school. And it just followed me. I would technically dance for 18 years of my life. It was from 4 to 22. So I think that's 18 years. Yes. 18 years of my life was dedicated to dance. But I started when I was 4. I wish I got to 24 years. I started when I was 2 years old. But it fully took over my life from the age of 4 all the way. It's still consuming my life now. I mean, I'm still coaching and I'm choreographing and I'm doing all these things. But it's been a major part of my life ever since I was little.
Now, when you were dancing, even though you're still doing it now, but when you were competing or being on a team of some sort, what really was like the best part about it?
So the best part about it, I would say, like, there was different stages of my life. So that when I was like competing in school, like high school dance team, I think the best part about it was just like being in school and knowing that I was on the dance team and people coming to watch, and even in competition, like being with your teammates and winning. But when I was at St. John's, I think the best part about being on the dance team was constantly performing at the Garden and people coming to see us and people coming to talk to you after the game and fans. And that was, to me, the best part about being on the team. And the reason why I continue to do it and the reason why I'm still there is because the people love the dance team. And I feel like it's like a source of entertainment for a lot of people that are not really into sports like me. Like, that's why I go to games. I love watching the spirit squads and entertainment. So to get to do that and continue to do that even now is kind of why I loved it and why I continue to do it all those years.
One of my favorite things that I remember, because we would always be at the games together, from myself shooting and then you dancing. And I remember you guys went away for nationals and my dad was sitting in the stands. And I remember after the game ended, I met up with him and I was like, how was the game? Did you enjoy it? And he was like, yeah, it was great. But there was people sitting around me that didn't have a good time. Like, why did they have a good time? We won, and everything else. And they were like, the dance team wasn't there because you guys went away for nationals. Yeah. And it just shows you how many people actually come out to see you guys perform and to see cheer and see dance. And it brings them like that joy of seeing what you guys came up with, if it was time for a new dance, or even if it's just the ones you guys have been doing all season long. It always brought that like sense of joy to everybody. And really, I guess that's what you would say is for the love of dance. That's why you're doing it for it. It's bringing that joy to people, right?
Yeah. So going off of that, my favorite memory, one time, I think it was my junior year, I was leaving the Garden with my friends and I completely changed. No one would have known it was me. I was wearing like a sweater, jeans, like not in my uniform. And I was walking down the street and someone tapped me on the shoulder. And she spoke Italian and I didn't speak Italian. And she just looked at me and she then like got it out. She's like, "You're on the dance team." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "I am on the dance team." She's like, "We just left the game." Someone translated for her. She's like, "We just left the game. We love you. We watch you on the TV all the time." So like for me, that was like one of those like pinch me moments, like people in Italy are literally watching and like looking for us. Like that was really incredible. But it's always been like, there's always moments like going back to the love of dance, like there's always moments where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like this has consumed my life. Like I could easily just give it all up, live a normal life, teach from 9 to 3, and then go out with my friends and do this. And it was like, I do really love this. And like now I get to see it from a whole different perspective. Yeah. Like I get to give back to the girls and the boys on the team now and give them experiences that I had or even more that I wish I had. Yeah. And now to get to see it through a different lens has been just remarkable, because I hope that they leave the program and leave because this is usually a lot of people's end of their journey. For me, it wasn't. But for a lot of people, it's over once you leave college. I hope that I get to finish off their journey, if it is the end, with still having that same love and still admiration for the sport and for what they've dedicated their life to as well.
Yeah, and really, I could imagine, I've never sat in on a practice before or anything like that, but I know it's probably long hours. Even after practice, you're going home, you're running through routines, making sure you could do it, and because you never want to go out there and possibly forget something in the middle, especially performing at a place like Madison Square Garden in front of everybody that's coming out to those games and everything. But really, what style, type of dance would you find is like your favorite?
So before I came to college, my favorite had to have been like lyrical or jazz. So that's actually what I was the most successful with in high school. So my high school dance team, we won jazz both years that I was on the team. And I always thought that I was just a jazz dancer. That was it. And I had no business doing hip hop whatsoever. So when I tried out for St. John's, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm not a hip hop dancer. I'm a lyrical dancer only. Like I'm very like pretty and light on my feet and blah, 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 blah. And I joined the team, and our choreographers that we still use, we've used them for now 15 years. We did the math the other day, are just some of the most creative, innovative people still in the business. They're remarkable. And I learned hip hop from them. And ever since then, I was like, hip hop is my favorite, because some people think, and when I was growing up, hip hop is one specific style and you have to stick to that mold. And St. John's and what we're known for is not doing what typical hip hop looks like. Like the people we compete against are doing hip hop that's still the correct way of doing it, and that's the traditional way, but we tend to do more of a entertaining, over the top, theatrical type of hip hop that doesn't really match the mold, but that has to be my new favorite style ever since I came here, is like learning that and starting to perform, especially like performing for such a large group. It changes your perspective. Yep. Like dancing at the Gardens for 19,000 people. Yep. It's completely different when you're in high school and you think you love one thing and then you come here and the audience has a big impact on like your opinion on like what you love and what you think that you're really good at, because that validation you're getting from them also kind of opens your eyes of like, wow, I am kind of good at this. Like, and then you start to try new things and learn new things and go to different classes. So that's why I would say hip hop now is my new favorite. But always growing up, it was jazz, tap. Even I was a really good tapper growing up. And then I also love doing like musical theater, like over the top theatrical stuff. So that's why even coming to St. John's, I had an idea of what I was going to love, but then we kind of tapped into it too, which was just great.
So kind of going off of that, I feel like all the dances that you, even dances in general, it's always to tell a story. There's always a story behind it, from the song to the moves that are being made. And you see it on Dancing with the Stars. You see it on just So You Think You Could Dance. You see it on all these shows. But when you guys came out and performed some of these routines, or would go to nationals and perform these routines, did you feel like the nerves were ever high at any point to go out, even though you guys knew you were great, you guys knew you had it, but walk me through like your nerves when you would go out to dance?
Okay, so a little bit about me is that when I get to nationals, I become like a selective mute. Like I do not talk the morning we compete. Like it's a really weird thing. My anxiety will take over and I physically like cannot speak, which is like, I was also the captain. So I would always be like, you got it. You got it, girls. Like, I just couldn't, like, it just, like, consumes you. Like, when you're back there, like, just walking you through it. Like, when you go to nationals, you warm up on this big practice mat, and there's 9 teams that are also warming up at the same time. So everyone's music is completely cranked up. Your coaches are screaming, but you're also, like, your ADHD, if you have ADHD, it's like game over. Like, you cannot focus. Like, there's so much happening. And then immediately you get 9 minutes on the mat. So, like, that's really the only time you get to, like, warm anything up, walk through the routine, spacing wise, make sure no one's going to hit each other. And then immediately you go down this dark tunnel. It sounds so morbid, but, like, you're walking down this dark tunnel. There's nothing around you. And all you see is just, like, this, like, little pathway. And then all of a sudden there's, like a ramp, like a metal ramp, and that's where you run onto the floor. But that's literally the only thing you see. So, like, you just keep inching up towards this, like, metal ramp, and then you're, like, your heart just starts racing because there's nothing around you to, like, try to, like, calm you down. And then eventually, like, your coaches are with you, but then they're, like, there'll be, like, staff members that'll come, like, all right, coaches, it's time to go. And they'll, like, literally, like hook them over, and then all of a sudden they're gone too. So, like, you're just, like, literally by yourself back there. But when you're back there and then all of a sudden the ramp, like, I will say, it's one of those moments where you kind of just, like, accept what's going to happen next. Like, you're so anxious, you're there. And then all of a sudden when it's your turn at the ramp, like, everyone, like, mutually agrees. Like, you kind of just, like, and then you just run on the floor and it just all goes away. Like, as soon as you get on the floor, it's over.
When you guys are out on the floor, do you feel like you black out in a certain sense? Like, just you do, the girls do it as well? Yes. Like, or even does the crowd help you? Like, as you guys are running out and they start cheering, whether you know them or you don't know them, like, does that help give motivation to kind of take those nerves down?
Yeah, so actually one of my favorite memories is when you run on, you really can't see anything because the lights are so blinding, but the only thing you can see is right in front of the bottom of the stage, and that's where your fans sit. So, like, they, like, maneuver it so that, like, your fans come on, then they run off. So what you'll see is you'll only see your family and friends sitting right there. Okay. So typically when you run on, like, especially if you see us, like, if you watch old videos, like, you'll see us wave down because you can see your family. Okay. That's what makes you feel really good. But then right before the music starts, like, when you start to hear, like, everyone start to go silent because, like, eventually we're not moving anymore, that's when, like, it starts to pick back up again. Yep. And then you black out. Once you hear the first beat of the music, I cannot tell you what happens ever since then. But then what's weird about it is that when the music ends and you're walking off the next ramp, sometimes what you'll do is, like, you'll look to the girl next to you and you're like, that wasn't good. Or, like, you'll look at each other and you'll be like, that was amazing. Like, it's a mutual understanding of, like, you don't remember what's happening, but then as you're leaving, you fully are like, either that was incredible or, oh my gosh, I have no idea what we just did. Like, that was just a disaster. Because then when you walk off, you watch it immediately. There's a huge TV. Okay. So the game, like, Nationals is over, like, the routine's over. You walk over, they take you behind this big curtain, and they just, like, press play. So and then you get to watch it in real time, like, what just happened. So, like, then it really validates, like, oh my gosh, we killed it. Or it's like, I have no idea if we're even going to make it to the next round. So then it starts to, like, either, like, ease you or it just builds. That weekend is, like, the most stressful weekend of, like, there's nothing like it, but it's, like, the most stressful weekend of your life because you have no idea if you're going to, like, keep going forward, what you're going to do. Like, it's crazy.
And staying on the topic of nationals, you guys won. Yes. In that one year. And I just remember seeing all those videos. I could still see it today of you guys waiting to see who was going to get second, who was going to get first. And you guys are all, like, tight with each other and close. And you guys are just, like, looking around. You guys are nervous and everything. But once they announced who got second and you guys knew you guys were the champions for your division and everything, you guys, your emotions just broke. Yeah. And through all the work that you did for those emotions to come out, what was that, like, rewarding feeling like?
So this is, like, that trip was by far the biggest roller coaster of emotions because everyone before we went to nationals was like, oh, you're going to win. Like, every time we did at the Garden, people, like, over the headset would be like, Christine, you're going to win. Like, this is your year. And we'd be like, and then once it feeds you, you're like, oh, we're going to win. Mm-hmm. So we went out there the first day of competition, and it was good. It wasn't, like, incredible. And we were like, oh, we're great. We're going to be, like, second going into finals, like, and we'll win. Like, we'll pull through. And then they announce who makes finals, and we're fifth going into finals. So we were not anywhere near first place. So we were like, okay. Like, we were humbled. Like, we were sad. Like, and I remember we left the big arena. We all had our sunglasses on. We were like brats. We were like, had our sunglasses on. We were pissed. And we were like, you know what? Whatever. They just don't appreciate it. Blah, blah, blah. The judges like ripped it to shreds the first day. They were like, we don't understand this, because it was all the fabric.
Okay.
And they were like, this isn't dancing. Like, this isn't dancing. You guys are not dancing. Blah, blah, blah. So we were like being brats, and we're like, well, we're not going to win. We're not going to win then. And our choreographers were there, and they were like, let's just get rid of the whole beginning. Let's get rid of the fabric. Let's just re-choreograph. And that night we were practicing, and we were like, no, if we're going to do the dance, we're going to do it like how it was meant to be. Like, we are going to do it because the story is we're doing it this way, like the whole thing. So next day we went, and I remember I was like, you know what, guys, we're in 5th place. Like, all we want to do is at least get 3rd, because then we'll get a medal. Like, we'll go home, we'll be on the podium, it's whatever. We were backstage, like, laughing. Like, this is why I, like, say, like, when your anxiety consumes you, it almost sometimes makes you dance worse. Like, that year, we were like, well, we're in 5th. Like, we were, like, backstage, like, playing games with each other. We were, like, dancing. Like, we were talking. Like, no one was, like, so fearful that, like, we were in 1st and then we were going to drop.
Yep.
And so we went on the floor, and we were like, all right. Like, we were, like, all holding hands. Like, it was over. And then all of a sudden, like, that was one of those things where you're, like, during the routine, you're, like, I'm killing this. Like, this is, like, incredible. People were, like, jumping, like, the audience, like, then you could see people, like, standing and clapping. So dance was over. We, like, run off the floor, and we were like, I think that was really good. And we, like, watched the playback, and the playback was awesome. So we're, like, leaving, and everyone is texting and messaging, like, the Instagram from our team, and is like, oh my God, like, you guys just brought me to tears, da 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 da. We were getting all these messages, and we were like, well, maybe we'll, no. And then we're like, you know what, no. We're just gonna get 3rd, and it's gonna be, like, it is what it is. Because we're always, like, in that top 3, like, every year, thank God, like, knock on wood, we're usually in the top 3. So we're like, you know what, if we get 3rd, we'll be super happy with it. So then we get to awards, and they're like, here, you guys sit here. And we were like, okay. So we sat there, and we're all holding hands, and they were going through. And as soon as they didn't announce 5th, we were like, all right, at least we moved up. Then they didn't announce 4th, and we were like, yay, we get a medal. Like, then we were, like, so excited. We're at least coming home with a medal. Like, we didn't let Queens down. Then they got 3rd, and they said Delaware, and we were like, oh my gosh, because Delaware was in 2nd. So I'm like, oh my gosh, at least we got 2nd. Like, and then it was St. Joe's and St. John's. Yep. So they always do this thing where, because there's been in the past where it's the 2 saints. And they'll go, Saint. And it's like, just say it. Like, just say what it is. So I was holding on to Anya. I literally had her, like, in, like, a chokehold. And she was sitting in front of me. And they said St. Joseph's for 2nd. And then we both just started, like, rocking our bodies. Like, I can't even describe to you, because I was in charge, because I was the captain of the year, so I was in charge of getting the trophy. If you slow down the video, I hold on to Anya, and then I throw her to the floor. I dart past her, I grab the trophy, I start jumping in the center, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, let me go back to the team. So then I'm going back to him, I'm like, we're all hugging. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was not expecting it. My heart was racing. Our jazz choreographers, one of my good friends now, Carrie, was like, literally told Christine on the side, was like, you need to, like, go monitor Matt's heart rate, because, like, it is out of control. I was so excited, because it was one of those things where it was like, I wasn't expecting it, but it was like, it was just so exciting that, like, we were able to accomplish something, even though there was a huge setback. Like, we were, like, miserable the day before, because we were like, everyone at St. John's was like, this is your year, you guys are going to win. And now how are we going to go back and perform at a game on Tuesday? And then being like, they got 5th. Like, so it's just like, there's a lot of pressure in a lot of respects, but it's a lot of pressure, especially, like, when you are so loved by the university and you want to do really well for them, that sometimes it doesn't go as well, but then it ended up going really well. But it was the longest weekend of my life. Like, that was, like, the most exciting, but, like, the biggest roller coaster of emotions that I could have ever gone through in the span of 72 hours. It was crazy.
And then basically, after you guys won championship, do you guys go back to hotel afterwards and then go to Magic Kingdom, or do you guys just go straight into the park? No, so we get to go back, and then what's fun is, like, if you win, your coaches put on your outfit and they go to the park in the outfit. So that's the tradition. So that's why we always, like, try to win too, because we're like, our coaches have to do the dance full out in front of the castle in the costume. So then we go back to the hotel. They put our costumes on. We got changed. And then you get to celebrate a Magic Kingdom, which is, like, the funnest. It's like you literally win the Super Bowl. It's like, I'm going to Magic Kingdom. Like, that's literally what happens. And you get to go. It's, like, the best time. Yeah, and you guys have the park to yourselves, right?
So
It's just all the other dance teams that are
Yep.
there and cheer, and you guys get to go out and
So much
explore
fun.
over at night. And
Yes.
yeah, definitely, probably a great time.
Yeah.
And while we were talking about nationals and the judges not really understanding what the dance was,
Yeah.
how important is song when it is incorporated into a dance?
Yeah. So the crazy thing about the music is that when I was going into high school senior, when I was a high school senior, they started the varsity itself. So the brand of competition that we were going to switched their music rules. So basically, back like when I was like in middle school and the beginning of high school, you could use any song you wanted. You could mix it. You could put two songs together. You could take the backbeat of one song and put it to another song. You had free reign to do whatever you wanted. And then when about 2016, 2017, they opened these music rules about copyright because they were afraid of being sued by the original artist. You're using their music, you're posting it, you're cutting it, you're altering it however you wanted. So then the rule became you can only use one song, or if you wanted to make a mix, you had to use covers of the song that were already bought through like the licensing, and a DJ had to make it. Okay. So when that came about, everyone was up in arms about it because it was the unknown of like, well, what do we do? Are you going to use one song? Or are you going to use a mix? What is, and that's even like with my choreography now is like, it's a lot of extra money in the dance team world because DJs deserve what they deserve to be paid, but it's a lot of extra money to have someone make a 2-minute mix with everything that you want. So song plays a really big part of it, especially in hip hop, because that's traditionally always been a mix of music. But what we do is we only use one song, because when you use one song, you are allowed to cut it. It just has to stay in order that the artist originally intended.
Okay.
So we will always try to use one song because then we try to make you feel like you're at like a concert or a performance. That's always like our biggest thing. Like you're at the VMAs. How do we make you feel like we're backup dancers and we're performing for Lady Gaga or whoever we're dancing for?
Okay.
But a lot of teams will still use mixes and try to pick like a different theme. Like if they want to do the 80s or like Delaware one year did all Snoop Dogg songs. Like they'll try to do things like that, but it's a lot of work because also sometimes the covers sound awful, with all respect to whoever sings them. They sound nothing like the original artist, and then it's hard because then it kind of like ruins your vision of what you think it's going to be. Yeah. So it does play a big part in it, but we try to use it as our advantage rather than a disadvantage.
Okay. And really you just touched upon basically being background dancers, as if you were performing at the VMAs or the Grammys, whatever it was. Now, talk about your experience with performing at the Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah.
And what that meant to be on a float, going down Fifth Ave, through everything that could have been going on Thanksgiving, but you guys are getting there super early in the morning to get in your positions. And then eventually afterwards, either if you're on the float and you guys go right down to Herald Square, or you guys are already there because your performer isn't on a float and they're just performing at Herald Square. How are those emotions on those days?
That was by far the coolest experience I've ever gotten being on the team. And that's what I talk about still to this day, is that my 5th year, I danced for Ty Verdes. He sings like a lot of the Target commercial songs. He was very famous on TikTok. And then the following year, we did Paula Abdul. And then my first year coaching. And then my second year coaching. So last year, we did Cher, she has been my idol since I was like 5 years old. I've been with her since her first album. I like love her. When Christine called me, tears. Like I was sobbing. I love her so much. That was the coolest experience. When I got to do it, we were on the float. And it's just like people are cheering for you. They're like screaming. Everyone's lined up and you're just like waving and saying hello. And then all of a sudden you get to right before Macy's and everything slows down. You flip the float as fast as it can, and all of a sudden it just jolts in front of Macy's. There's TVs everywhere. So what you're seeing on TV is what we're watching ourselves doing. So like if we were on TV for like a split second, we were watching ourselves. Yeah. So it was like the trippiest experience because like you're watching yourself, but I'm also watching what you're watching at home. So it was like super crazy. But like the sweetest people, it's so much preparation and so much work, and you have to keep it a secret. Like that's the hardest part too, is that we really weren't allowed to talk about it all 3 times. The last year, most importantly with Cher, we were like, it was sealed. Like we could not talk about it. But it was the coolest, greatest experience. Cher was like the most loveliest person I've ever met in my entire life. And so was Paula Abdul, so lovely, and Ty Verdes as well. But Cher, it was pouring rain the night we went for the dress rehearsal.
Okay.
And it was like when I tell you, like torrentially downpouring. We were all soaking wet. She, of course, pulls up with all these SUVs and men just come out with umbrellas, just guiding her through. So she was not wet at all. She didn't even have a jacket on. And she took the time to go up to every single girl and was like, "You are beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. You are beautiful. Thank you." Like, she was like the nicest person ever. And then even the day of Thanksgiving, she showed up like 10 minutes before we were performing, which was just still really cool too. And she still went up to every single girl, "Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Like, I'm so grateful." Like, she was just so lovely. And she looks exactly like how she looks in pictures. She's so charismatic. Like, it was just like you couldn't take your eyes off of her. And like, I never get emotional. Like, I don't cry, like, because it's just like, I don't know, I'm built different. And when they were dancing for her and then the confetti went off, I literally was like standing in front of them, just like silent tears, just like strolling to my face. And I was like, it was the coolest experience. Like, I love Cher because she's just Cher. And then I got to see them achieve something and like do something that was just like, something that I wish I could have done, but now I'm so grateful that they get to do it.
Yep.
Like, it was just such like a full circle moment. I was like, oh my God, I was just like so overwhelmed. It was the coolest and greatest experience. And like, that's why I love St. John so much, is that like people reach out to us and like ask us to do these things because we have made a name for ourselves over the last few years, and especially like all our performances and our nationals routines, but like we're extremely easy to work with. Like, we're very kind, we're adaptable, like we'll do what's asked. And like, that's another great thing to be known for, that like people trust you and like put their trust in the program because they know that you'll do what they're asking for.
Yeah, always will be a fan of dance.
Yeah.
Years to come, always was while I was there. And just, you guys always had that energy to you.
Thanks.
And was always the best time to be around anybody on dance or cheer, because you guys just always were happy or like ready to do whatever you guys had to do, and knew that like you guys could do it. And that's the best thing. If you know you could do it, and or at least you try to do it, you'll always get somewhere far, like further than what you may have already thought of getting. And you touched upon your first year coaching and having the girls on the float with Paula Abdul. What does that mean to you to have somebody like Paula, who basically started the dance teams within pro sports with
She's
the Lakers?
The original Laker girl. Yeah. It was the coolest. And she was so like watching her, she's I believe she's over 50. And the way that she was also still like the way that she trains still to dance the way that she does is incredible, because we're all out here still complaining that like our knees hurt and our back hurts and we can't do this. And then when you got there, you were like, oh my goodness, this woman is over 50 and she's like getting lifted. She's doing back, like this guy's flipping her and lifting her and she's dancing full out. Like, she was so lovely. She was so nice to them. And her choreographer was so unbelievably appreciative of us. And she was constantly working with us, sending us videos, letting us know what she thought. It was just all 3 times. And the Macy's Corporation itself, like the woman who used to run it, was just absolutely the easiest person to work with. And we were also really easy. So that's why they kept reaching out to us. But it was just all 3 times were just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And really, to go onto this more, I think over the past year, you had a recent interview with WFAN.
Yes.
And you were getting all these messages of people reaching out to you, being like, they're talking about you on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And really, you made such of a name for yourself at St. John's. And now taking it into your own way and being able to choreograph for different places. What does that mean to you to have schools, colleges reach out to you to be like, hey, Matt, come down to see us and teach us how to do this. Can you make us a dance for this season, for whatever it is? What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I started my business about 7 years ago, and it's just continued to grow each and every year, which has just been remarkable, because to watch it grow from one team to now I'm choreographing for 13 teams, it's just been such like a surreal moment because I've always admired all the choreographers that I've gotten to work with growing up. And I've always thought to myself, wow, if only I could dedicate my life to doing this. Like I would have loved to travel the world and travel the country and teach all these different people. That would just mean so much to me. It's something that I love to do, and I get to give back to different dancers and different athletes in this way. And to now see what it's become and to see that I've grown so much business wise and also choreographer wise. Like I used to, looking back to see what I used to choreograph to now seeing what I choreograph now has just been such like a surreal pinch me moment, because it's just when you continue to grow and continue to work really hard, the results will come. And it's hard being in a business that's like you're hot 1 minute and then the next minute you're not. So I'm really lucky that I've continued to grow over the 7 years and not diminish, because that happens a lot. Because what's really great about the business too is that there's someone always younger and there's someone new and more creative and sees things a different way. And that's great because I was once that. And now to still see that I am still growing has just been awesome. I always say, like, I love every aspect of my life right now. I don't want to give anything up. It takes a lot of time it takes a lot of time away from my team now too. But I wouldn't change a thing about it because I get to learn from different programs while I'm also out choreographing for them, take things back to our program. Like, what do you do that I can implement into my program? Or we always are like communicating. And what's really great is I've made lifelong friendships from the teams that I've choreographed for. So even one of my best friends is from the team that first hired me 7 years ago. And now we're best friends. We just went to go see Taylor Swift together. Like, we do all these things. So what's great is that I've grown in every aspect of my life, business-wise, ability-wise, friendships-wise. Like, you just learn so much. So like, I'm extremely grateful for my choreography business. It's been everything I could have dreamed of ever since I was a kid.
And you spoke about how from when you started 7 years ago to where you are now, on how your style is probably changing, and you're noticing it from how you were probably coming up with a dance 7 years ago to how you're coming up with a dance, say, tomorrow.
Yeah.
How important is that? Is it important to keep changing with the times because of what's going on? And are you taking those ideas from different places that you're seeing it, like whether it's social media, the dances that just explode and go viral? Are you using stuff like that? How are your ideas really coming into play when coming up with a dance?
I typically try to think outside of the box as much as I can. I always love to start with music. So if the music, like kind of going back to like what we were talking about before, the music plays a big part of it. So if I can find some type of song that I think A, fits the team really well, and B, kind of pushes the limits or does something that people haven't seen before, that's typically where I start with. But it's super important to constantly keep changing because dancers are only getting better. So like I always say, if I was auditioning for St. John's right now, I don't know if I would have made it because there's so many skills and tricks and turns and who can do this and who can do that all these new athletes can do. And it's incredible. But like it becomes, especially as a choreographer, it becomes very overwhelming because you have this person who can do a backflip, back tuck, and this person can do 3 leg hold turns. And it's like, how do I mix the two of these together? Because that's what a lot of these teams and coaches are looking for, because that is what does really well, and still be choreographically innovative and do this and this person and using the whole floor. It's like when I leave a choreography job, my brain is shut off for like 2 days because it is so much maneuvering and working the floor and it's just a lot. But it is really important to keep pushing yourself. And like social media has been, the dancers now, because of TikTok, are moving in ways that like you used to have to teach and work in a mirror and show them over and over again how to isolate your rib cage and how to do this. But because they're doing it at such a young age from like TikTok, doing TikTok dances, like yes, TikTok is its own entity. But when you're learning from someone that way, you're only going to continue to grow yourself as a dancer, movement wise, technique wise. And then like dance team has completely skyrocketed over social media because of all the great teams that are being showcased. Like children and athletes are watching that and then they are saying, well, why can't I do that? And then they're getting into the studio and trying it. So it's been a really cool, like especially over the last 3 or 4 years, seeing the level of talent increase and then trying to incorporate it into my own routines.
I know onto the point of social media, I think my TikTok is kind of on the side of dance talk at times, especially now with Dancing with the Stars being in full swing. But I even remember when national times come around and you have teams go out like LSU, what they did a few years ago with their, that just like captivated the whole world as to what they did. And you saw people recreating it, whether they were younger, older, people who may not even have ever danced before. And they're like, I want to try this. And you see it now with Dancing with the Stars. Everyone wants to try something. And it could go viral. They may not even realize that somebody comes out, they do this dance, and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do for it. And then social media just takes over. And you're seeing it with all these younger stars within the choreographing like area. And they're going to these facilities and teaching classes. And is that something you would want to do or try out? Have you ever gone to a class like that some of them are doing?
So I used to take, so a lot of the choreographers that I used to take class from typically do also host like master classes and do things like that. So I would totally do that. And I have actually taught like master classes myself too. I always say like, I'm not a master teacher, because sometimes it's like when you're going to a master class, this person has all this wealth of knowledge, and that's how I see it. Like when you go to a master class, so I always tell people, I'm not a master teacher. I am just a teacher that's here to show you something new. But going back to that, I feel like also now, like with the whole social media, it kind of just opens up a whole new conversation too, of like looking at dance team in a new light, because a lot of times people only see us at games and on the sideline and doing different things like that. It kind of showcases, especially like with LSU and Ohio State and Minnesota, it kind of has opened up like, oh my goodness, like this is way harder than we even expected anyone to ever do. And you're competing on a national level. So I love where it's all headed. And I hope and pray that it just continues to have a positive continuation throughout the upcoming years.
And you see it already happening with singers. They're incorporating these dances in, or they're having these younger talents come out and be like, make this dance for me. And this is the song, do it. And you see it either in music videos, they're coming in and they're dancing in the music videos, choreographing the music videos, whatever it may be. So the dance side of things is definitely taking off. And I think people are also seeing it now with Dancing with the Stars, as their numbers have been kind of going up more, whether it's the celebrities that they're getting on or even just the pros that they have on and the talent that everyone is able to showcase. And it's definitely, dance is definitely in. And I don't think it will be disappearing anytime soon.
I hope,
when you're going into coming up with a dance, or you're teaching it a few times already, what's kind of the mindset you kind of go in with? Like, do you go in with just like an empty head and just as the girls and guys are going around doing what they got to do, you kind of work off of it that way because of skill set and what one may be able to do to what another person may be able to do? What kind of mindset are you going in with?
So I typically go in with a blank head. I have an idea at certain points of music, like when I'm listening to the music, like the final cut, if there's a big inflection in the music, I kind of have an idea of like, if there's a trick I want to do, a skill I want to do, I'll put it at different points of the music. But that's like really only 3 major points of the song. Typically what I'll do is I'll go in completely blank and I will just start from the very beginning. Because one time I pre-choreographed before I went to a team and they couldn't do what I was asking, and I shut down and I didn't know what to do. There was no way of me like maneuvering it. And I just kind of had like this like panic, like sheer panic of like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I have to go home. I literally was like, okay, we're going to break for today. Like, I just need to like regroup. I need to restart, because if you go and you think it's going to go one way and then it just is completely like derailing, I'm like, I don't really like, it just is like everything that you planned for. Well, can I do anything? Like your mind starts racing. And then it's like, you just have like a group of 16 girls, like just kind of staring at you. And you're like, oh my goodness, like I have no idea what to do next. So that's when I started just doing it on the spot, because then you're able to see like, if I'm moving someone on the floor and I'm like getting them from the back right corner and I'm getting them onto center. What skill do they have that I can get? Like, it's just more organic that way for me. But a lot of my friends in the business will completely choreograph the entire routine before they get there. They will teach it. They have it all written. It's like kind of funny to see like the differences. Some of my friends have like notebooks and they'll literally write down step by step by step with little lines and what's happening, and the whole book will be filled. And they just go and they teach exactly what's there. And if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. And that's their job to fix if it doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. I personally have a different perspective because I want to make sure that it looks exactly how I want it and exactly perfect, because a lot of the teams that post that I did the choreography, I want people to be like, oh, wow, Matt K did that choreography. I loved it. I want him. Yep. Because sometimes what happens is like you can give a routine to someone. That doesn't mean they have to do what you gave them. Mm-hmm. So when you're posting about, again, going back to social media, if I'm posting that I worked with ABC High School, and then teams are looking to see what ABC High School looks like at nationals, and they don't look good because A, they didn't do my choreography or they completely changed it, then you're kind of like, oh my goodness, like now it's kind of affecting your business in a negative way. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always try to make sure it's exactly how the coaches wanted. It's exactly how I want it. And it's going to make sense. It hits the score sheet for nationals perfectly. And it makes sense.
Talk about the importance of being able to remember all these dances. Because I know through my time at St. John's, you guys had endless amounts of dances. Yeah. And one dance, I would start to familiar myself with it and would be like, okay, this is going to be the next move. This is what they're going to do. This is when so-and-so is going to do this. But then it's just like 2 days later, you guys come back out with a different one. Yeah. Or in a game, you could have 3 dancers or whatever it may be. And it's like, how does everybody remember this? I feel like I would learn a couple of steps and be like, I don't know what I got to do next.
Yeah. So I would say a big piece of it, especially when you're learning like an actual routine, is the music. So as soon as you hear the music and once your body becomes familiar with the accents, the musicality behind it, you automatically, like there's some dances like we all laugh about. Like if a song came on, like when we're out, we exactly know exactly the cleaning, what should be, like the same choreography, like it just sticks with you. Mm-hmm. And then there's other ones that are like, boom, right over the head. Like, okay. And I would say like, especially with that, like what you do, especially when you're on a team, is like, you'll like yell at each other during the dance. Like, and you can't really tell that we're talking, but like sometimes we'll talk out like the side of our mouth. Like, and I'll be like, head up. Like, and you'll know like my head goes up and then it goes down. Like we call it cueing. Like you're going to cue your friends. Like, so especially like if it's a routine that's like, you know, that your best friend is struggling with and she's standing right next to you, the entire time I'm saying kick is next, turn is next. And then it just kind of helps them remember what's coming next. Because there are times like some people are really great at memorizing choreography and they can pick it up like super fast. And then there's other people that really struggle with it and they can't remember certain steps. And it just takes a lot of memory. Like I work with some teams that make, like after I teach them the routine, the coach makes them write it down step by step, because some people are, what do you call that? When it's not visual learning, it's like hands-on learning. They have to like write it down. Mm-hmm. Some people have to listen to me over and over again. So the coach will record me going over the counts. Okay. And then there's other people that just have to do it. So they'll just like stand in the back corner and then just keep doing it over and over again physically. So we, especially with now, when you're kind of like aware of all the different learning styles, like athletes are better at figuring out which is theirs and then like adapting to it that way as well.
And do you feel like, I could be wrong, but on TV, sometimes you see it that the dancer will sing the song. Yeah. And does that happen a lot, that they'll memorize the whole song and they'll sing it as they're doing their routine?
So sometimes like the choreographer will ask you to like lip sync or to be like your Beyonce and you're singing this part. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes like it's also just like when you're out there, it just feels natural to do. Okay. Because sometimes like your face hurts after smiling for so long, or like you don't really know what to do with your face. So you just lip sync like a little 8 count of the music because it just gives your face a break too. And it gives you something to do.
And it seems like also from certain dances, you guys will incorporate acting into it. Oh yeah. Are you guys telling the dancers what to do, or do sometimes they just come up with it on the spot as they're performing that dance?
So 99% of the time they come up with it on the spot by themselves, because and what's really cool is that our team, especially over the years, has become very theatrical and really great performers. Like, one thing I'm really proud of them for is how great at performing they are. And I trust them. I know that they're going to go out there and do exactly what I asked them, which is to entertain the crowd. And if that means I'm not going to restrain you by saying you need to put your arm up and then do your head this way, like, do you? If you want to have your moment, have your moment. It's yours. Like, and so they'll like run with it, which is like really fun because how I see music sometimes is not what she sees music as, which is kind of cool too because like you have different opinions on like what it should look like. And I kind of like that because it shouldn't look just like how one person thinks it should look.
And I think it kind of comes back to that point of it's the story that's being told.
Yeah.
And if they could tell their story in that way of giving that certain expression, because I think at times expressions is what makes that dance more powerful, meaningful, and lets people understand what's going on within this story.
Oh, yeah.
Because you may not always know what that song is or have a connection to it, but if you see what's going on and it's playing this whole story out, it's definitely more connecting to the audience, whether it's at a basketball game, just you guys down at Nationals, somebody just watching it on TikTok. To have that connection with it is very important.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny because like when you hear music now, especially, sometimes like as you get older, like, and I know we both can probably attest to this, so when you hear a song, you can remember like what reminds you of that song, or you might have like a certain like memory, or you might have a certain like type of event that you were at when you first heard the song or what you were doing. So it's kind of cool to see that happening for them too. Like everyone has a different connection to music that's different than yours. So sometimes what I always say is that like, I hear this and this is why I hear this, but you might hear this and that's totally fine. As long as we're both agreeing that it's sad, happy, exciting. Like, as long as we have the same idea of emotion, it's okay that you feel something completely different. Like, you might feel hopeful and I feel sad. Like, and that's fine. But you need to explain why you feel that way through your dance, which is kind of cool too.
And music is one of the most powerful things that brings people together, because I am not the greatest at public speaking. If you give me something to say, I probably will not be able to memorize it.
Yeah.
A song, I can memorize it.
Yeah.
And whether it's just a song that's 3 minutes long or it's an hour-long mashup mix that some DJ did, I could probably know what song goes at what point per the second.
Yeah.
But then you go back and it's like, I got to go public speaking for this. Like, even taking classes at St. John's for public speaking, it was like, you're making me memorize this speech? I don't know how the heck I'm going to memorize this. I can't even remember the first 3 words that I got to say. But that just shows you how important music is. And when incorporating it into dance, it changes it all completely. And really, to end this today, what to you is dance in 3 words? If you had to choose 3 words, any 3, what are those that is like dance and just speaks to you?
The greatest escape.
Because it's that acting, it's the storytelling yet again, and it's just showing the journey and process of what the dancers can do to bring that out. Well, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on today. It was a great episode. Can't wait for the audience to hear it.
Thank you.
I know everyone will be very intrigued with knowing some of the behind the scenes that many may not have always been able to know. I know I've learned things today.
Yes.
And I want to thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Journeys in Focus. After today's episode, I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to explore your own journey on a more deeper level. Like always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and share the podcast as well. Follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes content, and much more. Until next time, adjust your focus and come along on the journey.